Matthew McConaughey has hinted that maybe he would run for office at some point. So a new survey found that if he were to run for governor, what percentage of voters would vote for him over the current governor of Texas, Greg Abbott? And I want to give you the details. Now, this is a poll that was released by the Dallas Morning News and the University of Texas at Tyler. And apparently the Hollywood star, if he were to run, would get quite a bit of the vote. So if Matthew McConaughey were to run, the poll of 1,126 registered voters found that 45% of them would back him. That would give McConaughey a 12-point lead over the current governor, Governor Greg Abbott, polling at 33% among those surveyed. Now, when this story was first brought to my attention, I had a negative reaction to it. I slugged the story, just kill me already. But then I thought about the context in California, where Arnold Schwarzenegger won as governor when the governor at the time was recalled. Gray Davis, I believe, was the right. Gray Davis was the governor who was recalled, and then Arnold Schwarzenegger won, and he became governor. The current governor right now is Eric Garcetti. I'm sorry, Gavin Newsom, and he is a disaster. Eric Garcetti in Los Angeles is the mayor, disaster. And you know what, Schwarzenegger? I'm sure he had lots of flaws. Don't get me wrong. Not so bad. Not so bad compared to what we're experiencing now. So who knows? Maybe look, Greg Abbott is awful. Could it get worse than that? And Matthew McConaughey is, look, he's a Trump supporter and all of that, but hey, if you want to take risks with your state, why not? Can't get worse than Greg Abbott.
Yeah, so I think this is actually an important story on a couple of grounds. And I don't know that McConaughey is a Trump supporter. McConaughey in the recent interviews has said that he thinks that we got to be respectful to both sides. We got to bring people together. It sounds like, Biden-esque with a little bit of right-wing populism sprinkled in there. I can't really tell. I can't.
What is this B-roll?
I know it's well, good for him. He's a good-looking guy. So I don't know what his opinion is. Would I take him over Greg Abbott, sight unseen about his policies? Yes. Why? Because I already know who Greg Abbott is. That's the devil I know, and I don't want the devil I know. Okay, you name it, he's done it. What they did during that freeze in Texas was unbelievable. So they let the electric companies not do any protections. They deregulated the hell out of them. They got paid. Abbott himself got millions of dollars in contributions from those same energy companies. And then people froze to death and they never fixed a thing, right? And I can go on and on. So would I take a rando celebrity over Abbott? Yeah, and a rando one, not like, John Voight.
Yeah, I was just gonna say John Voight, yeah.
Right, Ted Nugent, et cetera. You get it, right? Now, but the reason I tell you that is because what's amazing about celebrities and politics and how the rest of the media doesn't understand how politics works is that 30% of Republicans said they'd vote for McConaughey. That's a giant number. They don't know anything about McConaughey. He hasn't put out any of his policy proposals. They don't know a single thing about what he believes. And 30% of Republicans who might hate him if they found out what he believes, we don't know yet, are like, oh, he's a celebrity, I'm gonna vote for that guy.
Well, yeah, it goes back to the most important thing if you've decided to run for office, and that's name recognition. Yeah. Matthew McConaughey has name recognition. I don't know how he would govern. And look, if I had a choice between Matthew McConaughey and someone who's actually connected to people, a working class person who knows what it's like to be a normal human living in normal conditions, which are awful conditions in the United States right now, yeah, I would choose that person because there's an actual connection with people. And I think that person would have a better chance at representing the best interests of constituents. But again, in this particular context, if it's between Greg Abbott or Matthew McConaughey, sure, I'll take my chances with McConaughey because Greg Abbott is disastrous.
Yeah.
He did deregulate or help deregulate the energy companies in Texas. You're absolutely right about that. And as a result, those energy companies didn't weatherize their equipment. And that led to people losing power during a brutal winter storm.
Yeah.
He's awful.
Yeah, so look, again, if you are against Greg Abbott, you're a Democrat or independent who doesn't like him, going with someone else makes sense. If you're a Republican, without knowing who the guy is, going to him doesn't make sense, but I'll come back to that because Anna made a really great point in there. But the reason why I would take a random actor that I don't know the opinions of, one, Abbott's the worst. You can't get worse than him, almost, right? But number two, a lot of the actors grew up poor. Matthew McConaughey lived in a, even after he got rich, he lived in a trailer camp.
Did he?
Yeah, but it's misleading. One in Malibu, right? But still,
it's like a luxury.
Right, okay. right. But still,
Not still. That's different.
I know it's different. But I forget his background now. I thought I read it once, but I'm not positive. But a lot of the actors grew up poor, and so that gives them a little bit of perspective that politicians might not have. But most importantly, they're not already immersed in the culture of corruption. Greg Abbott rose up through the political ranks by doing favors for his donors. So it's in his DNA. That's what got him to governorship in the first place, is by kissing corporate ass. So McConaughey being wealthy and not having grown up in that culture of political corruption might be unfettered and might, even if he's right wing, might make honest decisions as a right winger as opposed to corrupt decisions. And I would still rather have an honest right winger than a corrupt right winger. So even if he turns out badly, but probably the most important point is the one that Anna mentioned here. The media totally misunderstands politics. They're like, oh, can you believe people like celebrities for no reason? Well, it's not for no reason. Partly, I'm stunned that Republicans are, not stunned, I'm amused and slightly surprised that Republicans are like, I don't know, I'll take a rant, even though he might not agree with me, and I got a Republican governor. But I don't dismiss it. But the media will then turn around and say, oh, someone who's run for office again, people really like his experience. No, it's not that they like his experience and they like McConaughey for no reason. It's that they both have high name recognition. Mostly people don't like the experience of politicians because they don't like politicians, but they know their names if they've been around for 10, 20, 30 years, right? And why does McConaughey do well? Why did Schwarzenegger do well? Because people know their names. Politics is all about name recognition and branding. Our media has no clue how to cover politics, and they don't know how much they affect the game through their coverage. And so McConaughey would get overwhelming coverage and doesn't even need the overwhelming coverage because he has such great name recognition already.
Right.
That's why they win. That's why the celebrities win when they run. And that's the number one problem any new person has in politics, but especially progressives. Because why does it affect progressives more? Because Republicans just go to corporations and go, I'll do anything you want. Then corporations will give them or independent expenditure groups millions of dollars to run ads on their behalf. And what do the ads do? Increase their name recognition and their positive branding. So that's why money in politics is so important, because you could just buy name recognition, which progressives can't buy.
Right. So what you're saying is not Matthew McConaughey, but Matthew McConaughey?
Okay, look, at least we got the recognition that I'm not the only one who makes dad jokes around. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.